All right, so today we are going deep on cybersecurity.
Ooh, exciting.
It is. And especially all about staying safe online,
Yeah.
because we have the Cyber Coach podcast, episode 6, to dig into.
Awesome.
And it really focuses on like the trifecta of online activity shopping, social media, and banking.
Yeah. It's so interesting how much we rely on the internet for like everything these days, right?
Finally.
But we don't always think about the risks involved. It's like we lock our doors and are cautious in unfamiliar areas in the real world.
Right.
But then online, we sometimes forget those same precautions.
Yeah, it's kind of like we let our guard down because everything's just a click away.
Right. Exactly.
But this episode, the Cyber Coach really highlights how important it is to be just as security conscious online as we are offline.
Definitely. It's not about being paranoid. It's about being empowered.
Right.
It's about knowing the risks and taking steps to protect ourselves.
Exactly.
So where should we start? Online shopping, social media, banking.
Well, the Cyber Coach dives right into online shopping
Okay, so it makes sense.
because it's become so convenient.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean, everything's at your fingertips,
Uh-huh.
but it's also like a prime target for cyber criminals.
Oh, absolutely.
It's funny. I was just thinking about this the other day. I almost fell for one of those too good to be true deals.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But then I remembered some of the red flags to look out for, and I was like, nope, not today, scammers.
Smart move.
But for those who might not be as familiar, like, what are some key things to look out for beyond just like, the HTTPS and the little padlock icon in the address bar?
Right, so those are good starting points, but you want to go a step further. Think of it like this.
Mm-hmm.
You're walking into a store for the first time. You'd probably look for signs of legitimacy, right?
Yeah.
Like, is there contact information readily available? Are there customer reviews? Do they have a physical address? Things like that.
Right, like you're checking their credentials before you hand over your credit card. It's the same idea online. So, let's say we found a trustworthy website. What about payment methods? I've heard that digital wallets are a good option. What do you think about those?
Yeah, digital wallets can be a good way to add an extra layer of security
Yeah.
because they essentially tokenize your card information. So even if the website is compromised,
Right.
your actual card details are protected.
So it's like a decoy credit card number almost.
Kinda, yeah. It's like having a secret code for your money, but way more complex.
Okay, so that makes me feel a lot better about using those.
Yeah, definitely.
But what about when you're out and about and need to make a purchase? Like public Wi-Fi is everywhere these days, but is it safe to shop on?
Hmm. Think of it this way. Imagine you're in a busy cafe shouting your credit card number for everyone to hear.
Okay, that's an image I did not need in my head.
And that's essentially what you're doing when you use public Wi-Fi without any protection.
Oh, wow. Okay, so no public Wi-Fi shopping sprees for me.
Yeah, it's best to avoid it if possible.
But what if you absolutely have to buy something online while you're out? Like, what's the workaround?
Well, if you absolutely must use public Wi-Fi, a VPN is your best friend.
Okay, VPN, virtual private network.
Exactly. Think of it as creating a secure tunnel for your data, shielding it from prying eyes.
Gotcha. So it's like putting a shield around your information.
Exactly.
Okay, so VPN for the win. But even beyond payment security, what about all the personal information we end up giving out online while shopping? Like our name, address, phone number, all that stuff.
Yeah, that's a great point, and something the cyber coach emphasizes too. We wouldn't just hand our social security number to a random stranger on the street.
Oh,
Right.
definitely not.
The same principle applies online. Be mindful of what information you're sharing and why a website needs it.
Right, like if they're asking for your birthday to ship you a package, okay, that makes sense. But if they're asking for your mother's maiden name just to browse their site, that's a red flag.
Exactly. Always question why they need the information, and if it doesn't feel right, don't give it out.
All right, good advice. So let's move on from online shopping and talk about social media, which is a whole other beast when it comes to cybersecurity.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean, we all love connecting with friends and family online, but it's easy to forget that social media is basically a public forum.
It is, and that's where those privacy settings come in.
Oh, yeah, those things.
The cyber coach uses a great analogy. Think of your social media profile as your online home. You wouldn't leave the doors wide open for just anyone to walk in and out, would you?
No, definitely not.
So it's the same with your online profiles. You want to control who can see your posts, your photos, your information.
Right. But I'll admit, sometimes I just click accept without really looking at what I'm agreeing to.
Yeah, I think we've all been there.
So what are some key privacy settings that we should be paying attention to?
A good starting point is controlling who can see your posts. Do you really want your boss or future employers seeing those photos from last night's party.
Uh, Probably not the best first impression.
Right. So think carefully about who you're sharing with and what information you're making public.
Okay, so control who can see your stuff. Got it. But it sometimes feels like, even with strict privacy settings, information can still slip through the cracks. Like,
Okay.
how much harm can sharing a seemingly harmless detail really do? I mean, come on, it's just one little thing, right?
Well, it's all about the bigger picture.
Mm,
Let's say you post about going on vacation. Harmless enough.
right.
But what if you also have location services turned on? Now someone knows your house is empty. Or maybe you mention your favorite coffee shop and your birthday in separate posts.
Right.
And suddenly, someone has pieces of information they could use to guess your security questions or even steal your identity.
Okay, so it's like a puzzle
Yeah,
where they're putting together these seemingly random pieces of information.
exactly. And that's why it's so important to think about the bigger picture when it comes to online security. Every bit of information we share online, even if it seems insignificant on its own, can contribute to our digital footprint
Right.
and potentially be used against us.
So it's like leaving a trail of digital breadcrumbs wherever we go.
Exactly. And you never know who might be following those breadcrumbs.
Okay, that's actually kind of creepy.
Yeah, it's definitely something to be aware of.
Well, speaking of creepy, let's talk about social engineering.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one.
Because I feel like that's where things get really tricky, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Because it preys on our trust and our good nature.
Absolutely. Social engineering is all about manipulation. It's like that charming con artist who gains your trust and then uses it to their advantage.
Right. And what's even scarier is that they don't always have to create fake profiles.
Uh-huh.
They can hack into existing accounts of people we know and trust.
Oh, yeah.
So how can we protect ourselves from these digital wolves in sheep's clothing?
Being aware of the tactics is the first step. Phishing emails, for example, they're designed to look like they're from a legitimate source,
Right.
like your bank, a store you shop at, even a government agency.
Right.
And they often create a sense of urgency or panic to get you to click on a malicious link or download an infected file.
Yeah, like, your account has been compromised. Click here immediately.
Exactly. So always be cautious and think twice before clicking on anything, especially if it seems too good to be true or
Right.
it creates that sense of urgency.
Right. Don't panic. Verify.
Exactly. And if you're ever unsure, don't be afraid to reach out to the supposed sender through an official channel to verify.
That's such a good point. And it's a good reminder that even though we're talking about the digital world, real-world common sense still applies.
Oh, absolutely. Critical thinking is your best defense online.
Well said.
It's a lot to keep in mind, right?
It is, but that's why we're doing this deep dive. So speaking of things that need protecting, let's talk about online banking.
Yes. Our hard-earned money. That's what the cyber coach calls a digital vault.
Right. Makes sense.
Got to keep it locked down.
Yeah, but even with the strongest vault, like if the building it's in is compromised, what good is it?
Exactly. That's where securing your devices comes in.
Right.
Think of it this way. You wouldn't build a high security vault and leave the front door wide open.
Definitely not. So what are some things we should be doing to kind of like fortify our digital fortress, so to speak?
First and foremost, always use official banking apps and websites.
Okay.
Think of those as the designated secure entrances to your financial institution.
Right.
Don't be tempted by any back alleys or shortcuts, like phishing links or fake websites.
Right.
It's scary how convincing those can be.
They really are. I was reading about a case where a fake banking website was so convincing it even had the right logo and everything.
Oh, wow.
Crazy.
Yeah, so you really have to double check the website address, look for that HTTPS and padlock, and even hover over links to see where they actually lead before you click.
So it's all about being a digital detective.
Exactly. Always be vigilant.
Speaking of vigilance, what about those account alerts? I have them set up, but honestly, they can feel like overkill sometimes.
Think of them as your personal security guards. They notify you of any unusual activity,
Right.
giving you a chance to act fast if something seems off.
Yeah. They might be overkill until they actually save you.
Really? Exactly.
I'd rather have them and not need them
Definitely.
than need them and not have them.
Exactly.
So, okay, what about when we're out and about and need to, like, quickly check our balance or make a transfer? Is public Wi-Fi a safe bet for banking?
Would you stand in the middle of a crowded street and shout out your bank account details?
Definitely not.
That's essentially what you're doing if you're using public Wi-Fi for banking without protection.
Yikes. Okay, so public Wi-Fi, no go for banking unless I'm using a VPN, right?
Exactly. And even then, err on the side of caution.
Yeah.
Wait till you're on a secure network if possible.
Got it. Secure network or bust. Okay, so beyond those like essential precautions, what about our devices themselves? I know software updates are important, but I'll be honest, I tend to ignore those notifications until I absolutely have to update.
Think of software updates as strengthening the walls of your digital fortress, because they include security patches that fix vulnerabilities that hackers could exploit.
So it's like patching up any cracks or weaknesses.
Precisely. It might seem like a minor inconvenience, but neglecting updates is basically like leaving your front door unlocked.
Okay. All right. I'm convinced updates are a must.
Yeah.
And while we're on the topic of like digital fortresses, what about those metaphorical locks on the vault door?
Ah, yes. Strong passwords and two-factor authentication.
Okay, so we all know strong passwords are important, but
Mhm.
honestly, remembering a million different complex passwords is just a recipe for a meltdown.
I feel that. That's where password managers come in. Think of it as your trusty digital keychain.
Okay.
It generates and stores all those strong, unique passwords for you.
Oh,
So
nice.
you only need to remember one master password.
That takes a huge weight off my shoulders.
Yeah, for sure.
And while we're on the topic of like security superheroes, let's talk two-factor authentication. I know it adds an extra step, but is it really that necessary?
So let's say someone manages to crack your password.
It could happen.
Right. With two-factor authentication, they still need another piece of information,
Okay.
like a code sent to your phone or email to gain access.
So it's like having a second layer of defense.
Exactly, like a security guard double-checking credentials.
I'm sold, but even with all these precautions, it feels like scammers are always finding new ways to trick us. Like I keep hearing about these fake customer support scams.
Oh yeah, those are definitely on the rise. Think of them as digital con artists preying on our trust and willingness to help.
Oh, so they might pose as a representative from like your bank or a tech company
Exactly.
or even like a government agency.
Right, trying to lure you into revealing sensitive information.
So how can you tell the real deal from the fake?
Simple rule. Never give out personal information over the phone or through email unless you initiated the contact.
Okay.
Legitimate companies are never going to ask you for sensitive information out of the blue.
Right.
So if you receive a suspicious call or email, hang up or delete it and contact the company directly to verify.
That's a good rule of thumb. Trust but verify, right?
Absolutely. Better safe than sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And this actually brings us to another important point that the cyber coach emphasizes. Cybersecurity is a journey, not a destination.
Ooh, I like that.
It's not about achieving perfect security, which is basically impossible,
Right.
but it's about constantly learning and adapting and making those informed choices.
That's a great point. It's like we're all in this together, right?
Yeah, we can all learn from each other's experiences and help each other stay safe.
Exactly. Knowledge sharing is key.
It is.
It feels like we've covered a lot.
We have.
And the cyber coach had so many great tips.
Mm-hmm.
I have to admit, though it can be kind of overwhelming thinking about all the ways we have to protect ourselves online.
Yeah, it can definitely feel like a lot to take in all at once.
Right.
But that's why I think it's important to remember that you don't have to become like some sort of cybersecurity expert overnight.
Right.
It's all about taking small steps,
Okay.
building those good habits over time.
So instead of getting overwhelmed, what is like one key takeaway that our listener can walk away with today?
That's a great question.
Like one action they can take right now.
Yeah. I would say pick one area that we've discussed today
Okay.
and just take action. Maybe it's finally enabling two-factor authentication
Right.
on your important accounts.
Okay.
Or maybe it's reviewing your social media privacy settings.
Mm-hmm.
Even just talking to a friend or family member about online safety
Right.
can make a difference.
I like that.
Yeah,
It's about empowering ourselves and each other with knowledge.
exactly.
And, it strikes me that a lot of these cybersecurity principles are really just common sense,
They are.
right? Applied to the digital world.
It's true. We have those instincts already
Yeah.
for protecting ourselves in the physical world.
Uh-huh.
It's about translating those instincts online.
Well said. Well, thank you to our listener for joining us on this deep dive into the world of cybersecurity.
Yes. Thank
I
you.
hope you found it insightful.
And empowering.
Yes, and remember, the internet is an incredible tool.
It is.
But like any tool,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
important to use it safely.
And responsibly.
So stay curious.
Stay safe. Okay.
And stay safe out there.
Yeah.
Until next time, happy and secure surfing.